Okay, welcome everyone. Sorry about that little delay, but it looks like I have a little glitch on Facebook for some reason. It's not going live. It's okay. All right, so welcome everyone. It's Mother's Day, and it's a special day. It can be a really warm-hearted day for some, and for others, it can be a really heartbreaking day. So if you're watching this live with me or you're watching on replay, I would love to know in the comments. Just give me a little heart. What color is your heart in regards to your mom? Is it broken? Is it blue? Is it hot pink? What is your color? And maybe share a little sentiment about your mom, because moms are just really special people, and they also give us all the programs and instill them early in life as well as our fathers. But since it's Mother's Day, I'll call that out specifically. And big love comes from our mom. We learn how to love. And sometimes that's great, and sometimes that's more challenging. So we just want to honor our mothers for whatever our soul contract is with them and what they came here to teach us and what we came here to teach them. So each week, 11/11, we go live, and you can ask questions to anything on relationships, to love, and to life. I channel it through from my higher self and your higher self and bring some wisdom and insights to guide you on your journey and hopefully help you move through. Or get past something that might be weighing a little bit heavy on your heart, or maybe causing some chaos of the mind. And so we'll go to some of the pre-submitted questions here. If you're on live with me, though, you will get priority. So please put the questions in the comments, and we'll jump over to you as soon as we can. And I have a beautiful live studio audience today, so I'm excited about that. I always love having human bodies in the living room with me. So we'll jump right in to the first question. I am aware that I am annoyed during conversations and don't say anything, but it eats me up later for a long time. Saying something doesn't feel right, but swallowing it seems just as bad of a response. Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways that I would respond to this that's coming through. One is feeling in your body a little bit more as you're sitting there, right? Because you're annoyed during a conversation, because it might be your mind that's taking you off to the chicken farm and back, when you really just need to be present with the person. And maybe finding that presence will give you a little bit different feeling about listening to the person. Now, I don't know if you're specifically speaking about like one person that annoys you in conversation, or if it's multiple people, but I'm sort of getting that feeling that it's perhaps one person that's annoying you more than others. And so we know what that is, that's oftentimes a trigger, that we're getting triggered by something that they're doing, not doing, saying, not saying, and we're following our mind and the narrative of our mind that's helping us get annoyed. So again, I would come back to the body, and even simple exercises, like sometimes just focusing, depending upon where you're at. I mean, if you're standing, it's a different story. I'll share that in a second. But if you're sitting, sometimes just focusing on the sit bones, like just going, okay, taking a deep breath and just focusing on the sit bones and just be with it in that moment, and try to really listen with your heart, not your ears and your mind in that sense. See what comes through. See in your body, like, well, where am I getting this uncomfortable feeling of being annoyed? And then afterwards, you can reflect with yourself. I always love recommending journaling, but reflect, like, why, where, and why do I feel like I'm getting that feeling? Now, if you're standing, you can do the same thing. I would just recommend, think about the balls of your feet, either your heel or the ball of your feet, and just like put a real intention to just be grounded there. And that'll bring you a little bit more back into your body and a little bit less out there in the mind. Now, if you can, it's always wonderful if you can speak your truth in the moment that you're feeling it, because then you're really there. But I recognize that sometimes we're too emotional. I know for myself, when my emotions are really high, I might have something I think I want to say in response, but I don't. I just take the pause and I listen. And for me, that reflection point afterwards is helpful. But if I can speak the truth in that moment, like, hey, like, wow, I'm feeling this at this moment. I don't even know why. So like, if you're feeling annoyed, but you don't want to trigger them, you might just say, I'm just feeling a little off in this moment. Like, I really want to listen to what you're saying, but I've got this happening, whatever that is for you. So you're just really acknowledging in real time, like, hey, there's something happening here. I'm not giving you my full attention. I really want to. Or maybe you even say, I want to give you my full attention. For whatever reason, my shit, your shit, I don't know, but can we have this conversation, later or tomorrow or whatever feels right for you based on your relationship with that person. And if you just can't do that, like you just don't have the time because it's a passing thing, then I would really do your best to speak the truth of what you're feeling. And if it's someone who's not a feely person, someone that you're like, oh yeah, I can't actually say that because they're going to think that I'm crazy or weird, that I'm expressing my emotions or my feelings, then I would also just think about, why are you in the conversation with them? I know that sounds a little bit harsh, but it's sort of like, why are you giving them your time? Because if it's someone that's not actually being present with you, and I think sometimes that happens in conversation, we get annoyed because we feel like someone's talking just to talk because they want to be heard. And sometimes we play that role as a friend. We listen and we validate and we let them sort of, get it all out there. And then there's times where we go, hey, let me just put a little boundary on this. Like, let's ring fence this. Like, it sounds like, and here's another technique you can use. It sounds like you're really upset because of. So just take that pause and repeat back to them what you're hearing so that you can cut the momentum of their story or the momentum of the annoyance that they might be hitting you up with. So if you're on with me live, I always love to hear if that's helpful, if you want more information on that particular question. But just really being present is always gonna get you a lot more than listening to the narratives of the mind and kind of running around that crazy farm, being annoyed and just experiencing those emotions. Sometimes we have to just walk away, but with communication. All right. Let's jump into the next question, unless we have anyone in the live studio audience that's ready to jump up. Okay. How do you set good boundaries in relationships? I feel my relationship is taking over my life, which I love. Yet I also have to stay centered on myself. Yeah, I think this one is a good question as well. And we talked slightly about boundaries in the previous one. Love can be so intoxicating in so many good ways, and also ways that can be perhaps unhealthy. But before we go to the unhealthy category, I would say that love is one of those catalysts that can really help us feel into our bodies, express ourselves, or experience a lot of fear because we're falling deeply in love or we're madly in love. Now, according to this question, I don't know how long you've been in this relationship, but I get the feeling that it is possibly six months ish, 6-8 months. And if I'm off on that, you can give me a little note here. But either way, I think what's so important is that you continue to leverage love, but not let it take you away. And so setting some of those boundaries can be as simple as that morning, if let's say you're living together, that you say to yourself and to your partner, here are the things that I really want to get done today. So you're just doing the basics. You're actually putting a plan together. And here's the things that I would love to incorporate you in with. And here's the things that I feel like I need to do on my own. Or here's some time chunks that I'm putting in that I just need to go do and be with myself. Because what happens is we do get in this swirl of wanting to do a lot of things with our partners. And yet we have to ground ourselves, and we have to come back to that, whether it's our inner voice that's of grounding, or sometimes it's our inner critic, or whatever the voice is that we really need to listen to. It's hard to do when we're just constantly going around and around to do the couples thing. So I get it that you're feeling like you want to continue to do this, and yet for the health of your relationship long term, setting these boundaries, setting these intentions, and being really intentional together at the start of the date. If you're not living together, you can still do the same thing. You may be of the similar, where you're texting each other, good morning and good evening, and maybe it is texting and saying, here's my intentions for today, here's my to-do list, and just getting really clear on what that looks like. And I know for me, sometimes I'm not a planner. I like to plan, but a lot of times I find that whatever I plan ends up switching anyway, because I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, how do I feel now about this? So that makes it a little bit trickier, because you can put the best intentions and the best plan together for the day. But sometimes that still gets off railed because you're like, yeah, I'm in the moment. So I think you have to catch yourself. Like, how often are you in that moment where you're doing something that's for the excitement of the couple, but not necessarily for your goals and desires for your life and for your purpose and for what you're here to do, and whether it's your job, like something that you're actually doing as a job, or it's a mission that you're on. Always keeping that at the top of the list and not letting the other people in our lives, because it doesn't always have to be romantic partners that derail us. It can be our children, it can be our parents, whoever it is that we put in our soul contract to, give us those lessons of discernment and setting boundaries and staying focused, but still in flow. And I think that's where it's really important to be in that flow state, but also with a sense of focus and priority and intention. And the more you start doing that with everyone in your life, okay, not everyone. It's not that you're texting everyone your intentions every morning, but meaning the people that you spend the most time with, because it could be a friend that derails you, that you love spending time with them, but then you're jumping to do things. So I'm just trying to broaden it for everyone out there in the collective, that relationships can clog our calendars all the time. And so it's like having your own focused priorities, your own knowingness of flow. Like, where do I really need to flow? Is it time to just say, I've worked too much and I really do need to move into that flow state right now, even though that wasn't part of the plan. I said I was going to, do this, and this. So I think it's coming back to that. And again, if you have what's coming is, these are kind of basic things, but a vision board, something that, you can maybe even have as a screensaver, or a screensaver on your phone, that just brings you back to your focus and your purpose, so that when someone calls and says, hey, your partner, your friend, whatever, let's go do this, that you can just have that little reminder that says, hey, like, does this align vibrationally with what's on my phone, what's on my screen? So that it's just kind of like a tune in back to not following, squirrel, which sometimes, we're all really good at doing. And there's not always something wrong with that. It's just that we don't want to get derailed. So I think that's going to help you if you are, really feeling like you're just running with the wind with your partner. I think you'll find that setting those intentions will also help you both really understand each other and what it is that you're wanting to do, and how you can support each other in your mission, so that you don't feel like you're taking each other off. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. I always love to hear in the comments below. Even if it's not your question, you are more than welcome to comment. Okay. So I've got a couple of live questions, and I'll jump over here to the living room to hear what comes up.
Thank you. I've been in a recent, very big transition in my life, a divorce, and with that, a lot of shifts in other areas of my life. And I feel like I'm on the other side of it, and I'm getting closer to a place of wanting to bring in a life partner, which is something that I've always wanted. And I'm noticing a lot of resignation. All the people that are in relationships near me have relationships that, to me, are very dysfunctional. They're not what I want. And then when I think about the kind of man I want to bring in, I get to this cynical place of like, that person doesn't exist. It is like a unicorn. And so my question is, and there's some other things I see that I need to do for myself to be ready. But I would love to know what you see that I need to focus on to get to a place where I can make this thing that I really yearn for a reality.
Yeah, I love that question. And I feel like, we set these ideal partners, these ideal mates. And I think you've already said one of the most important things, which is, well, what is it in me that I still want to do to be that person? Mm-hmm. Because ideally we're always going to reflect a mirror. And ideally we want to reflect a mirror that's more of our divine complement. But to be our divine complement, we still have to be in our own divinity in that sense. And so, and I think seeing other partners, like your comment when you said that about the other partner, other friends that have partners, and seeing the chaos and the discord, it's just always remembering, as you know, that that they're mirrors for us. And so whatever you're attracting is going to be the lesson you need to work on. So I think it's worrying less about, and I'm not saying you're worrying, but worrying less about like getting to a place within yourself or finding that person that's there, and just staying in what's coming to me is eye contact state with people. That person is going to flow in, and that person feels like they may have already bumped in and sort of bumped out, but not because of any wrongdoing, just because they just needed that eye contact. And so it's like the window to the soul. You've done all the work. You've put it out there, your intention out there. You have all the details. You have all of that. And I think your question was very specifically like, what do I need to do? And what I'm getting is make more eye contact, is to actually, when you're talking to people, and again, I'm not saying this that you're judgmental, because I don't believe that you are, but we all have a filter. Like we all want to say, oh, they're not this, or, oh, that's not my type, or whatever that oftentimes comes because we have this fantasy. I'm speaking for myself. I mean, I think we've been around the block long enough. We have this fantasy of like what this person's going to look like or how we're going to feel when we meet them. And what I found over the years and what's coming through right now is that sometimes that high chemistry, like, oh my gosh, this looks like, the person that's meant for me, is also a wound back there that's attracting us. Like the stronger the chemistry, like the deeper the wound. And so it feels like right now there's just this friendliness that you should have beyond what you've had, of eye contact and hellos, and not judging a book by its cover. That there is someone that might even be in your field right now. Like I just keep getting this, like they may be bumped, and it doesn't mean that you've actually seen them. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but it feels like maybe you have. And it was just that it was a bump because there wasn't that moment of connection with the eyes. Because I think that's one of the most important things, is the eyes are the windows to the soul. And so when we're ready to share our soul, and I'm speaking to, of course, my listeners are on the journey. They're awakened, they're awakening, they're expanding to, more and more consciousness. And that's really, we're ready for that soul interaction, not just someone to have a partner with, or to have a relationship with. Like we're looking for that deeper soul sharing. And so when you can do that with others, you'll know if they're ready or not, because they'll be able to look at you and hold that eye gaze or not. Or sometimes, just out of nervousness, even though we are ready to meet them, we look down. And then also what's coming is to not evaluate yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Like, oh gosh, I looked away, or, oh, I didn't do that. But note to yourself how you feel about making eye contact with different people. And of course I'm saying appropriately, because sometimes it's not appropriate, but try more and more and more to look people in the eye, take that pause, and see what comes back. See what comes back, because it feels like that, the cover of the book might not be exactly what you were thinking it might be. And that there might be a few people that are, I don't want to say missed, but kind of missed, like the connection just hasn't quite like really anchored in yet. And I feel like when I tune into your energy, I feel that you're actually very clean and open, and ready for love. And I also feel like there's always a bit of, I get the word hesitation to find that person. And there's an expectation that oftentimes we have about that person. And so when you do meet that person, to not have the expectations, and tune in and continue to tune in of what am I expecting them to be or do, versus just letting them be who they are. And I feel like you're good at that, but there's also like just a little dusting off of that. It's hard for all of us, honestly, like, to just let our beloveds like be who they are and just flow with it. It can be difficult because we all have ideas about how we perceive relationships and how they perceive relationships and where they are in their journey. And so, just allowing them to really be in that space and not make the judgments. And again, that feels like such a harsh word, and it doesn't feel appropriate for you specifically, but I think in general, it's like those quick ideas about people, like, let's just like really let those things go. And curiosity, it just like screams curiosity. And I think that's also where the eyes come in, and like having that twinkle in your eyes. Cause I know that's been something I've had to work on a lot, is really making that eye contact. I love to make eye contact. I just don't love to do it with strangers. And again, it's still discernment. I'm not saying you stare at everybody, but I've really had to work on that. And what I found is that then they see my soul, and it opens me up, and I'm vulnerable. And I had to deal with that vulnerability, but also it helps them be vulnerable. And then they can open up. And then just as a friend, even, I'm not saying like all romantic. It helps people feel like they really see us, and they really want to connect with us. And I think you will know that person, like a little bit of soul recognition through the eyes, more than like, oh, that looks like the guy across the room. Yeah. That kind of stuff. It feels very intimate. And that's that. Yeah. You're ready for that level of intimacy, and exploration. Yeah.
Thank
Is that
you.
helpful?
Yes. Can I ask a follow-up question? So I've been having some chronic, like women's health issues that, are limiting to my ability to be physically intimate. And I've been on this journey for a really long time. And that's a part that's adding to the hesitancy of like not wanting, like, I feel like I would ideally be healed and have that sorted out before I call this person in. But I'm open to, and that was part of the question of like, is there anything else I need to do to get ready? I'm just curious if you see anything about that specific, what feels like a barrier for me.
I understand how that could feel like a barrier. And right now it feels like for you, it might be, and maybe that was part of the dusting off of something, but your guy isn't going to have a problem with any of those, whatever the issues are. And I feel that he's here to help heal you. And look, you're already healed and whole. And I'm not saying that other people heal people exactly, but energetically, when we're with someone that loves us for who we are, and we're in that excited state about meeting someone and opening our soul, I think it's gonna, in a good way, push you to be even more vulnerable at a certain time, right? Like not on the first date, not on the first week, but whatever it is, to be able to share it and see their response or reaction, because I think that is going to also give you just another data point of if there's someone that you want to go into that deeper soul sharing with. And I don't know the word, I don't know if you feel this, but it just, there's the word shame that comes over in it, and it doesn't feel like, but it feels like a more like shame that something's not working, and not wanting to just have everything be normal. And there's, I think, a really specific reason why whatever's happening for you is happening, so that you can overcome that. And I feel like you've tuned into like, why did I attract whatever this issue is into my life? And also just feeling a little bit more into what that is. But I feel like it's actually a benefit for you in some really interesting way, that it's pushing you to not put so much weight on what the other person thinks. So if they aren't at a place that they can handle what you have to say about your health issue at the appropriate time, then it will give you just a lot more information about them. And again, I'm trying to be really specific, because it's not about a judgment. It's not about judging them like, oh, well, they're not there yet. It's just like, okay, well, that's going to give me more information of how quickly or how deeply I can move into in a more intimate situation with this person. Now, the other thing that's coming is, if something's not working, like where you actually can't have physical intimacy, there are so many other beautiful ways that you can start with to still share your soul and share even orgasmically, that doesn't involve even really the touch. It can just be an energetic thing. And so part of me is just getting this message that is also part of it too, is that you're supposed to explore this person in a very non-traditional way, to not jump into having sexual intercourse as oftentimes we do, because the chemistry's high and the excitement's there, and it's like, okay, time is now, and no judgments about that either. but it feels like there's this real tantric opportunity for you, and that there's a real connection, more to your chakras and your energy that is going to be really helpful. And then, and that feels like that happens before you even get into the topic of whatever the issue is. Just see like how present can they be with you? Can they really be there? And can you exchange like, hey, can you feel my heart? Can you feel the energy between us? Can you feel my third chakra? And so, I'm saying it kind of like not in the way you would say it in this intimate situation, but I'm just saying that sometimes like the basics of just feeling each other's energy, or even just like the hand thing, and yeah, the energy and tantra just keeps coming. That's what is up for you to practice, which is also interesting because tantra has a lot to do with the eyes and a lot to do with the window to the soul. So yeah, there's something really beautiful here for you. I don't know what the issue is, and I'm not asking you to say, but I'm just saying like I can tell that that's heavy, but it's actually heavy for like of this really beautiful reason that I feel like is going to help you blossom in a relationship in a way that you haven't before, because you have to move through this feeling that I'm not normal, or that my life isn't normal right now, or my body's not normal right now. And yeah, but it feels like just let go of when you start thinking those thoughts, you say, I'm not going to have that thought, and replace it with a new one. Whatever the thought is that comes, like I'm not perfect and whole, or I'm worried about that particular issue, and then just replace it with, and I can't wait to experience sharing energy with someone who's in a place that none of this matters.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And I'm going to sit with this because this issue started with my ex from day one. And part of the trauma of that relationship ending is there was a lot of words of like, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, I'm supportive, take your time. But I could feel energetically the pressure. And then towards the end of the relationship, there was a weaponizing of my condition. So I think I'm seeing that this is a gateway, right? Like the right person, like she'll open for the right person.
Yeah.
And so she's the gatekeeper, and it's a pretty clear sign.
Yes. I mean, I have like, I don't often get like full on shells, but I am. And I, cause just as you started to talk too, I was like, oh, this is going to give you the information you need to know that you can trust the person, because down the line, more shit's going to happen in relationship, in life. And you will know, is this person going to stay with me? Is this person going to be with me? And sometimes, dare I say, this is very, very, I'm always sensitive about making general sweeping statements because they're not true for everyone, but oftentimes men need a little bit more, hand holding. And I don't mean that from like a demasculating standpoint. I just mean like with sensitive issues, because they're like ready to go. Like that's what we love about them, is that they want to be intimate with us. And that's a beautiful trait to have. But sometimes they're thinking a little bit too much with that and less about some of the sensitivities. And that's where I think the feminine really comes in and can help the masculine soften and find that beautiful, blissful place together. That's not all about just the sexual chemistry and the attraction and let's be together. So yeah, I feel like this is a beautiful thing for you, as weird as that is to say.
That. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We've got some other questions online here. Okay. So grateful for my mom, who is in another country today. I went through a recent heartbreak. Great man, wrong timing. We had a lovely conscious closure dinner, and now I'm ready to move on. Any thoughts on how to keep my heart open to someone new, but also not be desperate to avoid the heartache of the loss? Yeah, that's a tough one. I feel that the desperate to avoid the heartache of the loss, what's coming is that it's still just a part of you that you're asking to connect with. To have this beautiful being come into your life has created so many openings And when, okay, so something else is coming through. I'm going to follow on that. But if anyone on here and you yourself, if you've done spiritual medicines or you've done conscious breathing or you've done something that you had that moment and then you came back and then the mind contracted. And that's what happens in love too, is that we feel expansive, like we can move mountains when we're in love. And then when things aren't feeling in love, it gets really constricted. And that's also where the heartbreak happens. And I know that you have allowed yourself to feel the heartbreak. And you're still saying, not be desperate to avoid the heartache of the loss. And I just am getting that there's so much more coming for you, and that this was, again, another stepping stone. And I know how frustrating stepping stones can be, because we feel sometimes like we've been through, so many different partners or had different relationships that felt like maybe they had the potential to be the one and then they weren't the one. And so I'm going to come back to those basics of you are the one, and there's no one else that's going to complete us. We have to do that completion process within ourselves, and no one else can do that for us. Now, relationships help us do that for ourselves, but we still do it for ourselves. So I think when you start to get that heart achy feeling, it's honoring it, but also not allowing it to pull you. And I know you're good at this and you're doing this already. It's just a reminder to allow the heart to feel, and then shift the thought, and to see and know that there is someone else coming. And in between that time, we're still having to just come back to ourselves, because when we can be just by ourselves in that loving, open space, then that's the time when that soulmate partner can really come in. And even then, it's still going to be a challenge. There's still going to be a lot of lessons to be learned, because we're navigating who we are as a person and who they are as a person. So I think it's so beautiful that you've had this conscious closure, and that you've had that, and maybe the thought to revel back in is the fact that you've had it this way, because there are so many people that don't get that opportunity, because they're either not ready for that kind of conscious uncoupling, or the partner is not ready for that conscious uncoupling. So how blessed and beautiful is it that you've come to this place where, in that separation, that you have this consciousness between the two of you that feels still very loving, very kind, and remembering that. So when you start to feel that heartache, just bring the compassion in, bring the love back here, and out of the mind that it was someone else that made me feel that way. Yes, other people help us to feel that way meaning, in love or not alone, in the world, on the planet. But it is about still coming back to being able to be alone and having opportunities to share with others our beautiful souls and our beautiful hearts. And when the contract's over, it is over, and it feels like you feel that and you know that. And that's, again, just the mind that wants to come back in and say, no, there was something more that was supposed to happen with that contract. Who knows? Maybe there is, but I don't think that that's the point for you right now. I think it's to not focus on that, but just keep moving forward with the compassion of what you've achieved in this beautiful space of consciousness, to have this uncoupling over dinner. And pat yourself on the back, feel a sense of pride for how well you've done this. And that, I think, will also help you keep moving. So much gratitude for this experience and how I handled it all. That's my evolution. Thank you. Yeah, you're on it. You've got it. And there are so many beautiful men out there. I know sometimes we don't see them, we don't experience them, but there are, and they're coming, and they're looking to find you as much as you're looking to find them. And so if you were here, I think you were for the previous question, maybe there was something in there for the collective about just keeping our eyes wide open, but from a soulful place. And I know that can be hard when we're feeling like, the last thing I want to do is fall in love with someone else and then have it end in heartbreak, because we have so many dreams that we build and fantasies and beautiful things that we really want to have with people. And sometimes it's just not meant to be. All right. Thank you so much for that question. Okay. We're going to keep moving along here. If anyone in the live audience wants to jump up again, you're welcome to do that. Okay. I recently found out that my boyfriend, whom I was living with, was cheating on me with multiple women. I am typically a very intuitive person, and yet I had no idea. I don't want drama, and yet I'd like to reach out to these women. What do you recommend, and how do I get over this betrayal and love again? I think there's a lot of questions in this one question, actually, which is great. You're asking about, your intuition, and I would say don't be hard on yourself about that. I think you are very intuitive. I think that this was the lesson that you called in, so there was a reason why you were sort of like masked over. That the fog was there, that you didn't see it, and maybe looking back, you go, "Oh yeah, I saw a few of the warning signs." But again, do not be hard on yourself, because it's not that you missed them. It's that there was a reason why you weren't supposed to get those warning signs. And then you say, I want to reach out. I get not wanting drama. I think that the first thing to do, and I feel like you're doing this, is to just make sure that you are doing your healing work, because oftentimes reaching out to other women can be really traumatizing, because they're having their own experience with the information, and they're having their own experience with you, and how you fit in. And so there's can be a real intricate energy that happens that can be not that healthy for you, unless you're in a grounded place or you have a strong support system that you can go to if the information you're getting from them is not what you're expecting. Because I think, ideally we want to be able to help people and have them have the same feelings or have the same reactions or have the same whatever. And oftentimes they don't, because they were in the relationship with your partner for their reasons and their lessons and their healing. And in some cases, they're not as expanded on their journey as you, and they're not actually even trying to get the lessons. And that's oftentimes where the drama can come in too, is that it's coming from their lens, and that gets challenging. So, but I do get the feeling that you are here to disclose that's part of why you had this fog, and that you are here to have those conversations, not just for yourself, but also for the other women. I think just only when you're in a place where you feel like you have a grounded sense about yourself, and that you think you can handle processing whatever it is that they're gonna push back to you, because it's never quite what we think, and it can get kind of sticky, and a lot of dynamics can happen as a result. So just really anchor into when the timing is right for you. And I would also say what's coming is that it's a neutral state. That's the way to gauge it. Like, where am I emotionally? Am I like, whoa, I'm so off the charts, like pissed off, or I'm this, or I'm sad, or I'm, where are you on that spectrum? And anywhere is fine. Anywhere is good. Just having the acknowledgement of where you're at will help you know when the time is right to actually have those conversations. Okay, I think I can speak about this neutrally. I've been speaking to my friends about this more neutrally. I can feel that I don't have the visceral reaction in my body when the topic comes up. Then okay, I'm in a better spot to actually have these conversations, because time heals all wounds, and it does help us to have more productive conversations with others, especially when they're over such horrible topics that we feel like, why am I even in this right now? Okay, I think there was a third part to that, and then we've got some others that are jumping up. And how, yeah, okay, so what do you recommend? I do recommend you reach out to them, but when you're in a neutral state and when you feel that you can stay grounded. And how do I get over this betrayal and love again? I think that's going to take time. I also feel like it's back to the message of just sticking with self-love. And I don't mean that just in like the basic sense. I mean that in the don't fall prey to your self-critic, because that often can be the hardest part to overcome, is why didn't I get it? Why didn't I see it? Why did I attract it? Especially if you're doing the work, and I feel like you are. We want to be hard on ourselves because we know we're creating our own lives. We're like, and why would I create that? But we do, and we do for specific reasons. And then we also have to find ways to love again deep within ourselves, but it oftentimes is rooted in our self-love, which means we are quieting the inner critic that's telling us that we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have, whatever the shoulds are and the coulds are, and the, yeah, I could have done something different. I should have done something different, and just staying with it. But this is what I did. I entered this relationship. I stayed in this relationship. I found this out when I did. And now I'm moving forward with all of the lessons that are coming afterwards. And I think just having that non-attachment, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm just like, wow, just don't be unattached, because it's not that easy, but it can be that easy when we come back to our, like, that's my mind saying that I want to stay in my heart, and I want to stay in my heart. And I know that I have big love within myself. I know I have the capabilities to love others with my big heart. And, I always feel that the bigger the break, the more light that can come in, unless you choose to close your heart. So when you close your heart, that's your choice. And you're here as a human to love yourself and love others and have some discernment. Not saying you didn't have it before. I'm saying now you have attracted a situation that is going to accentuate your discernment. You're practicing this skill set, and now you're at a whole nother level. And so when you enter into the next relationship, you'll look a little bit differently at things. You'll have healed something within yourself, and you will be exuding that bright white light again. And until you're there, it's okay. There's relationships coming for you all the time. And sometimes spending the time with our animals or our best friends or others, that's where we sort of get the oxytocin hits, and the friendship and the feeling like we belong and that we're part of something. It doesn't always have to be from the next partner. And so there's lots of ways I think that you can help overcome that betrayal. And that's focusing on those other people in your life that haven't betrayed you. And what are the traits that they have? And how do I feel when I'm with them? And maybe there's some things, not from a judgment, but just from an acknowledgement standpoint, that, there were some things that maybe I did feel in my body, but I didn't take action on, or I just didn't have enough information on. Okay, well, next time in the next relationship, when I feel that, thank you, first of all, to the previous partner for helping me, get that discernment at another level. And then you use it, and you just keep using it, and you keep using it, and you keep watching, like, am I able to be vulnerable? And in the right set and setting, which sounds kind of strange to say, but I guess what I mean by that is that you're in a safe container with your soul, with someone. And that's also, I think, something for you in this part of your life that, you're really just feeling into, like, is this person going to hold my soul like a fragile egg? And until they do, then you just keep exploring them to understand where they're at on their journey and if they're a vibrational resonance with you. And I think you'll find that it's easy to love again. It's just that this was a tough one. This was one that was going to help break you open to a whole nother level. Okay. I've got another question coming in here. Let me just see. Okay. So the question is, I've never been able to date successfully. I'm 34. I've only been on a handful of dates. I've never felt that anyone was ever interested in me. I'm pretty sure things aren't going to change. What can I do if no one seems into me? Yeah, I think it's something deep within you that you are specific. It's going to sound interesting, but just stay with me for a second. That you've called this in to have people not see you, to almost ignore you. And there's a part of you, it feels, is not wanting to be seen. And whatever it is, whatever, dare I say, insecurity that you may have, it may be subconscious. It may be something you just like totally are not feeling or that but you're sort of bringing in, I'm going to say, a bit of a painful lesson, because it's not nice to feel like you're not seen. It's not nice to feel like people aren't recognizing you or interested in you. But it's a very specific reason. I think that you've called this in for your soul contract with yourself. to dig in there and get like, what is it that's just not wanting to be seen? So there's a part of you that really wants to date. And then there's another part of you that says, but I just am not sure if I'm ready for that. And I feel like it's anchored in love. Well, everything's anchored in love or fear. So what are you fearing might be a good exercise. Like, what am I actually fearing in a relationship? And then just dig into that a little bit. Like when you start, if you're a journaler, journaling is great. Because sometimes I find that when the pen hits the paper, it helps to stay a little bit more focused. Because if we're just sitting, sometimes, we kind of go around and around. And I think you're going to find that there's some little fear in there, something that is exuding from you, possibly unknowingly, that is kind of putting this bubble around you, like don't approach me. And so think about how you might be able to find ways to break that. And even if you're into this kind of thing, you could do a meditation, and you could sit in meditation and visualize being in a room and having a lot of women that you feel like, it's your imagination you're using right now, or you can use a previous example and say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to imagine them coming towards me and having this great conversation and really feeling what that feels like. And then you'll start putting that out, because you're stuck in a program, you're stuck in a pattern right now. And the pattern is that this is what happens. And that's actually what you just said. And then I'm just seeing you writing something else here. I've been to therapy many times with different therapists. I've really tried to heal my insecurities, but I've never been able to. The woman I've been interested in aren't interested in me. I don't want to be abused or used, but isn't that everyone? Yeah, and I think that kind of dovetails into what I was starting to touch on, which is doing those visualizations. Because if we get stuck in these patterns, which we do, all of us, we all have a pattern that we don't like, and it exacerbates itself. And the way to overcome those patterns are to start to visualize and feel within ourselves what it feels like to have that pattern change. So we have to do that before it can change. And so if you can sit in a meditative state and really anchor in and just visualize and get excited, because that's the other thing is a lot of times we don't want to get excited about the new possibility, because the disappointment is so heavy. But that's also what you're calling in right now, is to be excited and curious and let that disappointment, the possibility of disappointment, go by the wayside. So if you start doing some of those visualizations, the other thing that's coming is, if you have any female friends that you trust, I would ask them to help you with this experiment and help, let's say this is what's coming. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 5 women that might be friends, and say, hey, can you just come over and just do this exercise with me, where we're in a room and I'm just going to come up to you, as though we're at a party. And I would like for you, as my friend, to tell me how you feel about me as a possible romantic partner. Not for real, but just like what their senses are as a feminine energy. And ask them to be honest, and ask them to be kind. Because it could be that there's a way that you're standing. It could be, sometimes it's like, I'm not saying this is for you, but it could be that, you're just kind of like this, or there's something about that you're not like showing your masculine energy. And your female friends who love you can help you. And they can say, well, how you said that, or how you walked towards me, or your opening line. They'll give you some feedback. They'll give you some tips. And I think that's going to bring you some really interesting information in a kind way. Because the last thing we want is for you to feel like you do the exercise and then you feel bad. And I think you're going to find some women. Okay, but if women aren't seeing me as a partner, how is that up to me? Because you in some way are giving off an energy to them that they shouldn't see you as a partner. It's the masculine. I feel like it's the masculine energy, that there's something within you. And this is what's coming. I never quite know exactly, but it's almost like as though you should do an exercise where you're just like pounding on your chest, like you're just calling the masculine in and pushing the masculine back out in a very flow-like state. And while that might sound like what do you mean? That's kind of a crazy exercise. There is something there for you. There is something that your masculine needs to be like woken up in a way, and I'm not saying you're not masculine. I don't know who you are, but I'm just saying that I feel that there's something about your masculine energy that just needs a, just like needs to get energized and charged. So if you can do that and sit with that and ask, if you're a good meditator, I don't mean to say good, but meaning that you can quiet your mind, ask yourself, like, what is it about my masculine energy that I'm not wanting to show? What is it that I'm not feeling? It's energetic. You'll get to it. I know you will. It sounds, and bless you, you've done so much work already. I really appreciate that. I think you're going to find there's some beautiful women that are going to come into your field, but you're going to have to just do a few uncomfortable steps, which is maybe the exercise with your friends and maybe going up to more women and finding a way to just say, I don't give a crap if they don't have interest in me. I'm just going to walk up to them and say something for conversation, like take the friend approach as opposed to I'm going to go ask her if she wants to, like, I want to get to know her, or I want to date her. I'm just saying, stay in that real curiosity of like, I want to get to know something about this person because I might want to be friends with them. Or it might be someone that I'm eventually interested in dating. And if they're not interested in dating me, and you have a relationship a little bit with them at that point, like not just the first night, but you've chatted with them maybe at several friends' parties, just ask them if you feel like it's a safe space for you, what it is that their impression is of you. You'll find a way to ask it that they'll be able to give you some nice feedback that doesn't feel too jarring. All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. I feel like it's unethical to ask out a woman unless it's been reciprocated. Women are uncomfortable with being asked out by men they don't find attractive. But here's the thing is I think you have to get beyond the idea of dating and get into the idea of, I want more female friends. I want to date someone, but I want to get to know them more, and I want them to get to know me more. And so there might be a bit of an attachment that you want to have too early. There might be, I don't know, that's not exactly what's coming. I can't get the word. It's not really attachment, but there's something sticky that they might be feeling from you. But get out of this idea that it's for a date. Just get into the idea that I want to get to know you. I don't know if how do you know if you want to date her? You think you do because of maybe the looks, but you may not know because you want to just explore. And that's a beautiful place to be, to not be like asking for a date, but just saying, I want to get to know you and I want you to get to know me. And then let's just explore. Maybe we're friends. Maybe we're more. And I think that'll take some of the pressure off. Okay, I know we're just down to the end here. Each week, I so appreciate you tuning in. Sundays, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And I love your questions and I love bringing through the insights. If you want more support, you can always go to bethbell.me. You can write your questions there, bethbell.me/questions. You can write in the comments here and I'll always pull them forward for the next show. And there's also the Awakening and Healing Handbook on bethbell.me. It's got lots of tips, tools, techniques, and modalities that can help you on your spiritual awakening journey, as well as the Herpes Handbook. And if you're ready for spiritual medicines, there's also the Psychedelics Resource Guide. And of course, you can always find my best-selling book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, Unraveling the Mind to Unveil Illusions. So until next week, I am wishing you so much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.